and welcome to a brand new series of Used Car Heaven, the programme that helps you get behind the wheel of your next car.
This week, Alice Patterson has £8,000 to spend. She wants something fun and we have 3 cars for her to drive, but which one will she choose? While John Slattery will be trying to offer Alice wheels that are a little different. And our car doctor Simon Hughes opens his surgery to cure some of your motoring maladies.
Hi, I'm Alice Patterson and this is my car, but I want to change it for something fun for about £8,000.
So Alice is after something that's fun to drive and all within a budget of £8,000. Sounds relatively straightforward, doesn't it? Well, let's have a look at the first car that we've lined up for her to drive.
Several years ago, Volkswagen decided they needed a sporting brand to rival Alfa Romeo. The result brought a welcome boost to a Spanish car maker. This car may be based on the Golf, but it looks better, costs less, and is faster than a GTI. But will Alice fall for the Latin charm of the Seat Leon Cupra?
Well, Alice, a fun car for £8,000. What do you think of the Seat? Do you like the looks of it?
I like the look of it. So far it's been nice to drive.
Yeah.
I do feel a bit too close to the steering wheel.
Do you?
I do, yeah. I feel too close to the steering wheel. I feel like the seat's too high as well. It's not that comfortable. And you've got short legs.
Now, you originally after something that was a fun car for £8,000, so does this sort of have that wow factor for you, or is it a bit too sensible looking?
It's not too sensible. It's probably not exactly what I was looking for, but it is fun.
The Leon was launched in spring 2000 based on the same underpinnings as the Mark IV Volkswagen Golf. Seats reserve the respected Cupra badge for their sporting models. The word comes from blending the words cup and racing together. And on paper, the Leon Cupra has enough punch to do credit to the badge, packing the same 180 brake horsepower 1.8-litre turbocharged engine as the Golf 1.8T, Audi TT and Skoda Octavia RS, mated to a 6-speed gearbox.
So why should you buy a Leon Cupra? Well, they're as practical and as well built as a VW Golf, and some people would say even better looking too. Plus, the Cupra has plenty of punch, 180 brake horsepower, which means a 0 to 60 dash of 7.7 seconds and a top speed of 140 miles an hour. At just under £15,000 new, the Cupra R seems excellent value for money. But on the used market, they're even better because prices are now slipping to less than £8,000.
Second-hand, the Leon looks better value than the closest Golf equivalent. The Volkswagen badge keeps prices high, but if you go for the technically very similar Seat, you'll get more car for less money. £8,000 should get Alice a 2000 car on a W plate in excellent condition. But will she be tempted by the Leon Cupra?
Well, Alice, that's the Seat Leon Cupra. What a quick car.
It is very quick, it's very fun.
As a package, do you think it's good value for money?
It's very good value for money.
Because you get everything on it, basically.
Yeah, you've got your
air conditioning and CD player, the whole works, haven't you?
It's just not very comfortable. I didn't find it very comfortable.
You didn't, did you?
No, the seat dug into the back of my knees and I felt too close to the steering wheel.
What do you think about the style of it and, you know, buying a Seat, say, over a VW badged Golf or something like that?
That doesn't bother me. It's a very good looking car. It's a very nice looking car.
As it stands?
Yeah.
So, apart from the comfort, you quite like it?
Yeah.
Okay, still got 2 more cars to drive, so you might change your mind because we've got 2 more cars left for Alice to drive, so let's see what's next.
When this car was launched in 1990, critics lambasted the car for looking too much like the original 1960s Lotus Elan. They soon shut up though, as this little 2-seater proved a cracking drive, winning fans all over the world on its way to becoming the best-selling sports car of all time. Let's see what Alice thinks of Mazda's MX5.
What do you think about the sort of performance and the handling of the car?
It's good, it is fun.
It feels sharp to drive, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's very direct.
You've got rear wheel drive as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're the sort of person who likes to, you know, throw it around corners a little bit, you can have the fun if you want to do.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for, something fun.
It's pretty economical. For £8,000 you can have a very nice TW Reg 1.8S, 1.8 IS. Yeah.
It's sounding appealing. Very appealing.
I think this car's beginning to grow on you a little bit. I can just detect.
Yeah, I'm quite enjoying it.
Yeah, it's good. It's what we like to see.
Launched way back in 1990, the Mazda MX5 proved an instant hit. Tapping into a formula that proved so successful for the likes of Triumph, MG and Healey in the 50s and 60s, the MX5 reignited the craze for affordable sports cars. Apart from a minor facelift in 1998, the MX5 formula has pretty much remained unchanged. Powered by either a 1.6 or 1.8 litre engine, rear-wheel drive, 2 seats, and a soft top you can drop when the sun shines.
Okay, so the MX5 doesn't have the practicality or quite the performance of the Seat Leon Cupra, but it does have rear-wheel drive for a sportier feel, and it's more involving to drive on the road. On the downside, boot space isn't fantastic, but the MX5 is cheap to run and insure, plus it's reliable. Now the great thing is with the Mazda MX5 is that it's been around for such a long time. First models were launched way back in 1990 and upgraded models like this in 1998. So there are plenty of used examples on the market, so you don't need to buy a duffer.
With the first MX5s over 13 years old, there are cars out there for under £2,500. There's also lots of private imports around badged Miata or Roadster, but with UK cars available so cheaply, we'd suggest you stick with them. Alice's £8,000 should get her a 99 V-plate car, which is after the facelift and in excellent condition. So let's find out what she thinks of the Mazda MX-5.
Well, Alice, that's the Mazda MX-5. I got the impression you were really warming to that car the more that you drove it.
I really enjoyed driving it. It was really fun to drive. It was really comfortable to drive.
But with this, you sit low to the ground, and I mean, it's not the most comfortable cars in terms of it's not got a particularly soft ride to it because it's a sports car, but it's all part and parcel of the package, isn't it?
Yeah, but if you buy a sports car, then that's
what you get.
What you get. So
£8,000, you could have one of those for. A lot of car for the money.
Yeah, quite a good deal, I'd say. Yeah.
So you're quite keen on that, more so than the Seat at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay, one more car to drive. You might change your mind. You might do.
Might.
We'll see in part 2 of the programme with the third car. But before that, we need to head off to the surgery. Here's our car doctor, Simon Hughes.
This week I've got an email off Jill Gray, who's got a Ford Focus 1.6 Z-Tech, and she tells me she's got a problem on the car, so let's go and find out what it is. Now, the problem that Jill has with her Focus is that when she turns the ignition on, her temperature gauge goes right up to the top and then drops back down and stays there while she's driving. And although it runs okay, the engine management light is staying on. Now, because the gauge is seeming to be faulty or showing a high reading, that would signify that we've got a cooling system fault. And all cars can potentially suffer with cooling system problems, and they're mainly caused by a water leak, which could be caused by a faulty radiator or a faulty hose. It could be caused by a leaking head gasket, which is the seal between the top part of the engine and the bottom part of the engine, and that can fail. And then the last two that are the most common really are maybe a faulty thermostat, which is buried down here, or maybe a leaking water pump, which is buried right down at the front of the engine and is driven by the belts there. Now, to test these components, we can actually do simulated tests under the bonnet, so that's what we'll have a look at now. Now, we can check for leaks actually under the bonnet by unscrewing the cap and pressure testing the system by putting this device on here. We'd screw that on there and pump up the pressure, and what this does, it simulates us driving down the road with a hot engine. So we can pressure test it by pumping up the pressure and then checking visually for leaks. Hopefully we'd find one. We then possibly check for a head gasket leak by removing the oil filler cap and having a look inside, and that should be nice and clean like this is. But if there's loads of sort of mayonnaise looking goo in there, then you've potentially got a head gasket problem. Now, Jill's problem isn't actually either of those. I strongly suspect that we've got a faulty gauge electrical system, and I'd probably put my money on the cooling system sensor, which is buried down the back of the engine. We can't see it. Now, if it is that, which I'm confident it is, that could be replaced, costing about 25 quid and about an hour's worth of labour in a garage, and that would cure her problem. But the engine management light that's staying on, that's something else, and on focuses that usually means that maybe there's a problem with the emissions, so I'll be checking a lambda sensor and air filter. Now I've got a few tips to do with cooling systems and overheating problems which you must remember. Firstly, look at your gauge next time you're driving down the road to see what temperature it normally operates at, and it should be about half the gauge or maybe a bit less. That way, if something does go wrong, you can spot it straight away. The other thing is maybe pop into a garage and get them to check your coolant level, and using a magic marker, maybe put a line on the bottle here so that you know what is the correct level, and if you periodically check it, you can then see if the coolant's been lost. And finally, if you do suspect any cooling problems, and this is a top tip, act very, very quickly, because it's not so much the leak that could be expensive to repair, it's the engine damage that loss of water will cause, and that could run into hundreds or thousands if you need a new engine. So that's it on this. Hopefully we've fixed it, and if you've got any problems, I'll be back next week and hopefully can answer some of your emails and queries.
On this week's Used Car Heaven, we're looking to find a new car for Alice Patterson. She's already driven the Seat Leon Cupra and the Mazda MX5, but there's still one more car left for her to drive. Also, John Slattery will have an alternative suggestion to the 3 cars that I've put forward. That's all in part 2 of Used Car Heaven. And if you fancy any of the cars on this week's programme, we'll be telling you what to look out for.
Alice has around £8,000 to spend on a new car. She's looking for something fun and has already driven the Mazda MX5 and Seat Leon Cupra. But it's time she got behind the wheel of our third and final car. New Edge styling may be looking a bit tired these days, but in 1997, this little coupe looked pretty sharp. Its 1.7-litre engine was breathed on by Yamaha and delivers 125 brake horsepower, making this car no slouch. But will Alice be put off by the humble Fiesta underpinnings? Or will she give the Ford Puma a chance?
I mean, what about the looks of it, first of all? Do you like the general shape and looks of it?
Yeah, it's a nice looking car.
There it is. Now, out of all 3 cars, this probably sounds the best, dare I say.
Yeah,
Would you agree?
it does sound really good. Yeah, I maybe would have been more impressed with it if I hadn't driven it after the other 2. If I'd driven this first, I might have been slightly more impressed with it.
Yeah.
But I do prefer both the other 2 to this one.
As we said before, the Puma was based on the Mark IV Fiesta. This is not a bad thing. The Puma is a cracking drive with sharp handling and, with the right engine, rapid performance. The Puma was available with 3 engines. The 1.7-litre petrol was followed by a cheaper 1.4-litre car, which was replaced after a couple of years by a 1.6-litre. There was even a limited edition racing version with wider arches and more power. The racing Puma cost over £20,000 new, and unfortunately are still commanding prices higher than Alice's £8,000 budget.
Today, the looks may not be to everyone's taste, but if you can look past that, then the Puma offers up a whole lot of fun. On the road, it offers sharp handling and near hot hatch pace. Plus, it's cheap to maintain and service. And with the Revy 1.7 engine, offers reasonable fuel economy too. As standard on the 1.7-litre cars, you would get power steering, ABS, traction control, remote alarm, alloy wheels and more.
Puma prices have now dipped below £5,000 for early 1.4 and 1.7-litre cars, while at the top you can pay over £11,000 for a good example of one of the extremely rare racing Pumas. Alice's £8,000 should get her a year 2000 Puma on a W plate. Prices between 1.4, 1.6 and 1.7 cars are very close for that model year, but we suggest she goes for the extra pace and plusher specification of the 1.7. Let's find out what Alice thinks of the Ford Puma.
Go on, Alice. Tell me what you think of the Ford Puma.
I'm not very impressed with it.
I got the feeling you weren't.
No,
What really didn't you like about it?
I didn't like the interior at all. It's very plasticky.
Bit plasticky.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the road, it's quite a good car.
It is fun to drive,
Yeah?
but I couldn't see anything out the back window.
No.
There wasn't much visibility at all.
It does go quite well.
It does go quite well, and when you put your foot down,
It's got that nice sound to it, hasn't it?
Yeah.
From the exhaust note. So you've driven all 3 cars. Now, what if Alice decides not to go for the Puma or the Seat or the Mazda MX5? What else could she have as an alternative car for the same sort of money and fun? Well, here's John Slattery.
The car City Car has been with us for several years now and is starting to show its age. In a moment of madness, Ford de-roofed their car, giving us the Streetka and revived the stylish, cheap two-seat convertible. 21st century frog-eyed sprite, anyone? The looks have been given a subtle makeover. The car has always been a funky looker, and the Streetka is no different. Built by Pininfarina in limited numbers ensures that the Streetka will remain a relatively rare sight on our roads. Inside, it's a bit of a squeeze for 6-footers. The dash, well, it will be very familiar if you have driven a car before, even down to these little metal effect touches. The roof folds manually and hides neatly behind this body-coloured panel, leaving decent boot space either with the hood up or the hood down. Under the hood, the Streetka has the same 1.6 engine as Ford's new sport car. By removing the roof, they've had to stiffen the floor pan, and that means the extra weight really does take away from performance. That extra weight has also hurt the car's pin-sharp handling. It doesn't offer the sporting appeal you might expect, but it does ride well, it's comfortable, and at the end of the day looks great. This car turns a lot of heads, so get ready to enjoy serious attention. With its low insurance rating, lightweight and small engine, it should be quite cheap to run. And because of its rarity and must-have factor, well, it should hold on to its value quite nicely. Bad news if you're looking to find one second-hand. It will be some time till they pop up at bargain prices. So while it's no 21st century frog-eye sprite, the street car will appeal to those people who want a desirable fun car with few of the compromises.
Alice, brand new car on the market, the street car. What do you think of it?
It's a nice looking car, it looks quite fun.
It looks the part, doesn't it?
It does. There's not many of them around, so that's good.
But on the downside, because they're so new, you've got to buy a brand new one practically, so it's still going to cost you 12 grand, a lot more than you wanted to spend.
It is, and I don't think I would spend it. I think I'd wait a few years if I was going to get one till they come down in price.
Well, it comes down to the fact that when you can spend £8,000 and get a Puma or an MX5 or a Seat Leon, would you spend the extra money for a street car?
No.
You wouldn't do?
No.
So you've driven all three cars, you're not going to go for the street car, so we want your final decision, please. You've had the Seat, you've had the MX5 and the Puma. In 3, 2, 1, please, what are you going to place third?
The Puma.
The Puma?
Yeah.
Did you completely hate it, or were there bits about it that you liked, or what?
No, I liked it. It was fun to drive, but if I'm going to spend £8,000 on a car, that's not really what I'm looking for.
You want it to be absolutely right, don't you?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
It's quite a stylish looking car.
It's a nice looking car, and it is nice to drive.
Did you find it fun to drive?
Yeah, but not me.
Didn't quite do it for you?
No.
Okay. Number 3, the Puma. Number 2 would be...
Seat.
Seat Leon Cupra.
Yeah.
Quick car.
Very quick car, very fun to drive, very nice looking car, just uncomfortable.
You weren't mad on the comfort side of things,
No,
did you?
no.
But it's a roomy car, and if you want to take all your friends out, it's ideal for that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but that's not what I'm buying
Not what
a
you're
car
after for, no. So, Puma number 3, Seat number 2, which means number 1,
The MX5.
Mazda MX5.
Yeah.
Great choice.
It's a really good car, really fun, really nice to drive. I wasn't too keen on it when I first got into it.
Took you a while to get used to it, didn't it?
Yeah, but definitely my number
After
one
that,
car.
you were away, weren't
Yeah.
you? You were really enjoying it. Big smile on the face, car.
Yeah.
If only we had the weather for it, which we haven't today, unfortunately.
Well,
Never mind.
one day.
Listen, I think, just to make sure you're absolutely right about that, I think we ought to take it out for another drive.
Okay then.
Let's go and drive it. Well, Alice, you made a decision to put the Mazda MX-5 number 1. Are you happy with your decision? Do you think that's the right one?
I do think it's the right decision.
Do you?
Yeah. The amount of money I want to spend on a car, I don't think I'm going to get a better deal. I wanted something fun for £8,000, and it is fun.
Now, if you're looking to buy any of the cars on today's programme, here's a guide of what you need to look out for.
First up is the Puma. An advantage of it being based on the Fiesta is that the mechanical parts are cheap and simple. Even so, check the service history is stamped and up to date. Also check that the timing belt has been changed at the correct intervals. A sudden breakage will leave you with expensive engine repairs. Keep an eye out for how well the car has been treated by previous owners. Scraped bumpers and alloy wheels will spoil the appearance and are expensive to put right. How about the Seat Leon? As you'd expect, being based on Volkswagen Golf, the Leon's overall reliability is top notch. Minor niggles with coil packs, minor electrics and door seals have been reported, but nothing too dramatic. It's likely that some of the Cupra versions will have been driven enthusiastically, so check for accident damage, wheel damage, etc.
Finally, the MX5. With the MX5, first check all the bodywork carefully for accident damage. Early cars are old enough to show signs of rust in the sills, wheel arches and screen pillars. Moving inside, check the electric windows operate correctly. Reluctant and slow movement is usually due to the cable mechanism wearing out. This is not cheap or easy to repair. The rear discs can sometimes seize on, which can be expensive to put right, so check for bluing of the discs, indicating they've been hotter than they should be. On pre-facelift cars, check the pop-up headlamps work, as the motors can fail. Misfiring is often due to old ignition leads, but unburnt petrol can damage the catalytic converter.
Well, we've had another wonderful day's filming here in Manchester for this week's Used Car Heaven, but on this week's programme, we've been looking to find the right car for Alice Patterson. We gave her a Ford Puma, a Seat Leon Cupra and a Mazda MX5. Remember, she had a budget of £8,000 to spend on her new car, and she decided to go for the Mazda. Great choice. A real two-seater roadster, open-top motoring at its very best, rear-wheel drive, fantastic fun, and this too would be my choice if I had £8 to spend on a new car. That's it for this week's Used Car Heaven. Join us again at the same time next week.